I'd like to talk a bit about the inference efficiency. If you noticed, most of the AI sustainability discussions lately have been focused on the training.
Welcome to the AI Space Podcast. It's 2025, where we strive to encourage and empower AI founders, innovators, startups, and businesses to drive innovation and scale their initiatives with game-changing insights. I'm your host, Sanjay Kalluvilayil, founder and CEO of Stonehaas Advisors, a consultancy dedicated to helping AI leaders struggling with cash flows to create value and maximize valuations to fund growth, successful capital raises, and/or strategic exits. You know, AI unicorns aren't born, they're built, but how? Well, that's why we have Anastasiia Prydius, head of product development here from AccelIQ.Digital. This is our 6th episode, and we're totally excited to have her. She's a data-driven product leader and AI strategist with over 10 years of experience in SaaS, AI ML solutions, and data-driven applications across Europe and the US. Anastasia leads AccelIQ.Digital's in-house technology team, specializing in transforming strategic goals into scalable AI solutions that drive real business impact. So we have an amazing agenda again for you. So, we're going to dive into the technology architecture, so integrating AI into your technology stack, business scaling, cost-effective strategies to grow your business, ethical and responsible AI, balancing innovation with accountability, AI democratization, empowering businesses and unique perspectives, and then finally some encouragement, so some final insights, thoughts, and words of encouragement to those of you that try to build your business. So Anastasia, welcome. Here on the AI Space Podcast, we highlight game-changing insights that drive innovation and scale business initiatives. What do you see as the hottest trends in AI for 2025?
Yeah, hello Sanjay, and thanks for the great introduction. Definitely excited to be joining the AI Space Podcast. Thanks so much for having me. And it seems like it's a perfect time to have this discussion, taking into account everything that's been happening in this industry during the last couple of weeks. So super excited. Coming back to your question about the trends, wow, that's a tough one. It seems like it's getting more and more difficult to make any predictions in terms of where this is all going to be going. Things are changing every day. I think I'll focus on a few things that I've seen some positive trends happening during lately, and I hope this will just keep growing. So I'd like to talk a bit about the inference efficiency. If you noticed, most of the AI sustainability discussions lately have been focused on the training, on the energy and cost saving for the training of the AI model. And I hope that there will be more and more conversation happening around how this is all going to be affecting the cost of the inference. And just to mention that inference is basically the real world AI application, right? When the AI model is trained and now it's going to be applied. So the second one is going to be cybersecurity. I see how exactly as two-factor double verification and the user authentication with then classic softwares have become usual practice for us. I see the same happening in the AI industry, and more AI security tools are coming on the market. There are lots of great players there, and I'm happy to dive more into that. And of course, AI democratization and the illusion of stability, I'd call it. There are more and more players on the market. Some of them you might have heard lately, like Deepseek, latest model have came up, and definitely excited to hear your thoughts on that. Just to notice that accessibility to the AI doesn't mean stability, and hope there will be more and more efforts going in that direction.
No, I really appreciate that. I think we're going to talk together, and we'll talk about inference computing, the technology section. I think that's very important. Deepseek's introduced that in its new model. You talked about cybersecurity. Actually, our last episode with Luigi Languido addressed cybersecurity and using predictive AI in that space. I think that's still going to be very important, and we'll talk about a couple of the other things that you mentioned. So thanks. What have you seen as a follow-up? What have you seen successful businesses do to scale up their businesses in the past year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I think I'll speak more from the kind of businesses that we usually work with AccelIQ.Digital. And those would be more like medium-sized businesses that are looking into applying AI to improve their operations or scale the revenues. So I've definitely seen lots of success with the businesses that have a clear picture of where they are going in the long term and what are their short-term goals. So definitely AI adoption with a business-first mindset has been doing very well for everyone. So starting small, defining the use case, and then seeing what's going to be the application of the use case for your business in the long run. Second would be the data readiness understanding, which would define the AI success for your business. And we've actually we were pretty busy with helping out businesses to assess their data readiness, or I'd say AI readiness, right? Because the data quality, as we all know, and there is quite a lot of emphasis on this. So data readiness is going to define what you can gain with AI. There's been lots of conversation going on with AI and having a human in the loop. And there is, of course, this trend with the AI agent happening lately where the human seems to be stepping out of some of the interactions. But I still see lots of success happening with the businesses when they still have the person to take the decision using their prescriptions that were given by the model. And yeah, that would be, I think, my top three. So the clear long-term and short-term goals in mind, clear data state understanding, and definite data structure before you even get into defining the use case and so on.
Oh, wonderful. And we'll dive deeper into those topics later. So before we continue, I want to invite everyone to follow Anastasiia Prydius and also like, comment, and subscribe to the AI Space podcast, because that helps us grow the show and have more impressive guests like Anastasia. So, Anastasia, could you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got here? What led you on this foray to AI and your path to AccelIQ.Digital?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I started my career in tech around 10 years ago, and it was SaaS platform in advertising technology, which pretty much relies on real-time data decision-making. So it kind of created this solid business understanding in my mind. What does it take and how important it is to have the consolidated data, and how their accuracy of the decision that's been made by the model in the backend really affects the business, and how it can generate any risks out of that. By education, I specialize in data and statistical analysis. I have a research-oriented master's from Spain, and then I graduated here in the US in information systems and business analytics. So I think the combination of a strong academic understanding and research-oriented base and a practical application of software development have created this comprehensive approach to building out successful solutions, either it's AI or not necessarily AI. And I'd like to speak more about this moving forward. And I joined AccelIQ.Digital around 2 years ago. The company started as a consultancy in AI and digital transformation space. And since I joined the company, we transformed into actually delivering end-to-end custom AI solutions. And this is how my journey started, with helping out the traditional businesses transform their businesses and improve their operations.
Very nice. And then, your role as head of product development, there may be a lot of young people out there that are just in university, maybe getting their first jobs, and, you get your traditional majors, but maybe explain to them what is a head of product development and, what's entailed in that role, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the most exciting, what I love about my role, is this combination of both business and tech. And I think if it's really important for any person in the product-related role to have ability to feel the excitement of technical people you work with for any of the edge technologies that coming out, right? To be able and be excited with them and support them as long as they are researching on this. But at the same time, feel the pain of the customers. So basically, if you are able to combine these both skill sets together and implement all this exciting technology towards solving the real life problems, I think this is where the beauty of the product lead or product manager comes in. And in my role, I do a lot around AI strategy and roadmaps for the businesses we work with or for our in-house product development and iteration, meaning basically everything that would help to manage AI product development from concept to deployment. And at the same time, I've been involved a lot with the client and market alignment, because this is what really helps you to define what the market is looking for and what pains customers are facing with. Without that, it's very difficult to create a product that your clients would fall in love with, as we'll like to say at AccelIQ. I'd say that's in a brief. And we do have lots of internal frameworks and processes built up to help us make things going smoothly, because it's not always easy to manage both bespoke and in-house development. That's quite interesting of a journey.
Yes. And so are you managing the product roadmap? And I guess that's the first question. You manage the product roadmap, and when the solution is going to be launched and the features are going to be rolled out, and incorporating user feedback, et cetera. Maybe talk a little bit through that.
Yeah, definitely. For that one, we actually have a framework which we like to call simple, because we like to approach the things in a simple way. And basically what it means that for any project that we work on, we start small. So beginning with the focused use case to deliver immediate value. So before going into any roadmap, it's very important to sit down there with the customer, with all the stakeholders involved, to identify what's going to be there, this minimum valuable product, how we call it, right, that would have an impact and would deliver a value to everyone involved. Then we definitely keep the client involved throughout all the stages of the development. I would definitely suggest to anyone who's on their product roadmap journey to always incorporate some time for client interaction. Don't create the product. Don't wait to get the feedback from a client until the product is ready. It's really interesting, but we still have lots of discussion with our colleagues who are in tech, who have developed seems to be quite amazing products, but when they go to the customers, it doesn't have the features or it doesn't work as expected. So always keeping the client in the loop. Then it's very important to measure the impact continuously, right? While we're working on the roadmap creation, as you mentioned, we break down the product development into the major milestones. So we can, at every milestone being delivered, we can clearly assess the success of this milestone deliverable, whether it met the requirements, what were the expectations, were there any delay. This would allow to iterate and basically adjust if necessary, right? The basics of agile approach. The next one would be prioritize simplicity. Well, I think it's very easy to over-engineer sometimes, especially when you have a team of super professional technicians working on the product, and everyone wants to definitely deliver the most is available and possible at this moment. But clients really and people, anytime you utilize any solution, you like it to be simple, to be straightforward. So this is what we do. Keep in mind always when working also on our in-house product. This is basically our major differentiator on the market. It's simplicity.
Yeah, I think I just want to go into that. So what is the current focus of AccelIQ? What are your types of clients and the use cases? that lies to your roadmap?
Yeah, definitely. So, as I mentioned, we focus on mid-size businesses. Basically, either it's bespoke or in-house product excel inside. We are trying to help out the companies to first assess their data state and then help them to create this AI or data strategy roadmap. And product roadmap would usually be incorporated into this whole strategy, meeting their business goals. Then we would go into custom development, or we would suggest the company to maybe utilize some available on the market solutions. One of our major focuses where we've seen the most successes of now, it's been around companies' operations, whether it's financial or marketing and sales, which has a lot of potential to get simple and quick gains, having you have everything set up in the right manner. And this has been our focus so far.
Okay, great. And then is there a sub branch of AI that you're focused on? Is it machine learning? What are what areas of artificial intelligence are you kind of focused in?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We are not limiting ourselves in there. There is definitely a wide range of opportunities. I'd say that majority of our team members, everyone is coming from a background of conventional machine learning, same as for myself. So whenever the case needs, we would definitely start with machine learning if this is something that would deliver the value. But we do work a lot with the generative AI space as well. Lots of work being done in the LLM space. So I think now what the products that have an optimal combination of both solutions, this is what really delivers the most of the value.
Okay, great. And then that gets us to our next question. And we've definitely moved up the technology section to further up into the conversation. I think this is a good timing for that. So in terms of technology architecture, right? So how should founders and businesses approach structuring an AI ML tech stack that's practical and scalable, right? So how should they approach that?
Yeah, Scalable is a good focus point in there, definitely. So anytime you start, there is so many frameworks and technologies available on the market, different providers. So how do you choose and where do you start? Definitely, I suggest to keep the long-term goal in mind. So the first one, I'll say I'd focus on three major points from my side. The first one is data engineering storage. So if you're looking for something like if you are building a prototype or you want to create some proof of concept when you're going to the new market, definitely you can start something like a small scale, something for rapid experimentation and lightweight processing. And I'm not sure if I should go and name some of the providers, but definitely this would make it easy for you to start. But if you're at the stage already where you're looking into building up a comprehensive product and solution for large-scale data processing, definitely makes sense to invest effort into onboarding with things like BigQuery, Data Lake, or Apache Spark, which are available there on the market. The second one is going to be a lot about data model development. And again, it's very important to understand what data you have on board for the model development and what's your, let's say, cost-effectiveness approach. I don't know, we will have time to go into details of what are the possibilities out there in terms of choosing the right model for your case. But definitely there are some more suitable or less suitable models for your specific business case or for the data that you have available. So it's very important to define that, whether you're going to be working with structured or unstructured data and things like that. For example, if you're working with the financial forecasting, maybe traditional machine learning would be even better for you than going with anything more comprehensive like deep learning models. Or if you're going to implement some customer-facing solution, whether it's going to be a lot of natural language processing, that would define basically the model that you are choosing. But of course, having in mind the cost benefit. And I cannot stress out less mentioning the importance of having different environments for the deployment of your AI or machine learning solution, because being a lot in the tech community, it's very surprising sometimes to see that some companies may go with the solution without having staging or dev environments. And I think it's very important. It may be not easy, especially for these companies that go into software development right now, starting with AI. It's very important to kind of circle back to the good practices of the traditional software and have all the things in place, like dev environment for your research, a staging environment for testing with the real data, but without exposure to the end users, and then production environment where you actually get where you actually apply the real model to the real user's data.
Yeah, very good. And then also, we'll talk about the last few weeks have been rather interesting. So we had, President Trump come out with Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, and Mayochi-san from SoftBank. So you had OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank come out, $500 billion investment pledge, 20 data centers, 10 being built in Texas, impacts on, building out energy systems and infrastructure. And, the story was how the U.S. builds its lead, and, there's concerns about U.S. hegemony and all these types of things. And shortly after that, Deepseek comes out and says, we've trained a model for $6 million. And, there's a lot of embargoes on their access to NVIDIA chips and others. And Li-Fang Wang, the founder, had stockpiled a couple of chips. And then to overcome that, they had to do some disruptive innovation, and they came out with a mixture of experts, which we'll get into: inference computing, distillation models, reinforcement learning. So different types of things that have come out, and that's really turned the AI world upside down in terms of the cost model investments. Stock markets have plunged, the stock prices of, say, NVIDIA or what have you. Then after DeepSeek, you hear updates from Quen, another Chinese model. Then you also hear about Mistral AI from France. They had made upgrades to Le Chat, and then now there's a new model, S1. I think it was between Stanford and University of Washington. I think they use $50 or $60 of cloud computing credits and some chips to distill a model, etc. So lots of innovation and the AI world turning upside down. And people were worried about AI replacing human jobs. Now the meme is AI replacing AI. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, that's been a couple of really interesting weeks, and it's really been very exciting, interesting. A lot of been fear. I'm sure that every one of us have been kind of experiencing some of the days. And yeah, the conversation is still going. There is still a lot of communication going, whether there is an OpenAI code being used for the deep source and Deepseek and things like that. So I would not finalize the conversation as it is now. From the good point of view, I think what happened is that the appearance of the latest R1 by the Deepseek, because their base model, I think they came up somewhere in December. So the most of the hype was happening around R1, which is interesting to see, because what was different in here is that the model is showing how the decision is being made, right? And this is what everyone has enjoyed a lot, because there is a lot of uncertainty and not a lot of explainability around an AI. And when a person is able to actually see how the model is taking a decision, this accessibility to the knowledge this is what gets a lot of buy-in from human, right? And I think that's why people got kind of like lots of education around that. And especially the conversation about reinforcement learning started much more happening, which is exciting. I think it's been a lot of improvement in terms of offering by LLMs on the market more players, more quality to the end users, right? And so I really like the idea that kind of the providers stop going after the speed that LLM delivers, And incorporating reinforcement learning kind of turns back the conversation more to the quality of the answer that LLM provides. And I think this is a real changer and a real interest to the businesses in there. Gives more choice, more flexibility to anyone who is willing to incorporate. I also really like the research paper about the S1 that you mentioned. It's really great to see that there is more and more research happening, and they were using a very not a very big sample of the data to do for the experiment they run. But still, it shows that there is a lot of room for the new players. We will see improving GPU or workload, I'm sure, happening with all this inference level improvement again. Cost of training going down, hopefully. So if you are a startup and you're looking where to start with, this is definitely a perfect time to build something new.
Yeah, and I think we can talk all day about this technology. So let's do like a rapid run of some concepts. Okay, I think one thing you mentioned was the chain of thought prompting. So back when you use the previous LLMs, you would ask a question, it would produce an output because it's doing a prediction. It's predicting the next sequence of words, and it's based on the highest probability. So say, the cat is, it could be an animal, it could be black, it could be whatever. There's a certain level of probabilities. The probability distribution produces an answer, right? And then one of the prompts in prompt engineering, or the way you set the instructions, is something called chain of thought. It's basically show me your work, so it keeps thinking through that, right? So it looks like Deepseek R1 has instilled that chain of thought prompting to kind of show the work and how it got to different things, right? So what are your other insights on chain of prompt? I think the other thing too is also Deepseek is not only producing one answer, it's producing answers in parallel and determining the best response out of all those answers too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been great to see this development. And it's funny that you mentioned the cat is black. So I instantly had the thought that cat is going to be black. So I'm sure that LLM would most probably provide the highest probability response as black. Definitely didn't have a lot of buy-in from the end users due to that, because just having a highest probability of the next word to be generated doesn't give a lot of understanding towards how is this working. But chain of thought is exactly replicating the human thinking process, which kind of makes us, giving us more trust into the LLM. And what is exactly doing, as you mentioned, so it's generating an output to some of the question, and then utilizing this reinforcement learning basically to analyze the previous response and applying the reward or punishment basically on the quality of the answer they provided in the first iteration. If the model itself is giving a reward to the previous answer, then it keeps going with the same logic. But if it didn't work, it gets a penalty. It's basically following the AI game logic in there. And then it changes the result towards the end. So this is how going out of the black box kind of concept, which helped a lot to understand how these things are working, definitely.
Yeah, definitely the reinforcement learning works when the environment gives the context, right? So like in a game, a good example is like Pac-Man, where if you eat and that dates me, some of the young people don't know, what is Pac-Man? But, you eat the little pellet and you get some points. And if the ghost, kills you or whatever, then you lose points, right? So the environment gives it. And then the ChatGPT, et cetera, use reinforcement learning with human feedback. So you had the fine tuning from the humans, which it's kind of like, in the story about, the caterpillar, and when it's trying to break the cocoon, do you help it break the cocoon or it won't fly, right? But the thing is, in some contexts, you need reinforcement learning because the environment doesn't provide the feedback, because there may be bias, sensitivity, things that you can't say, right? The environment doesn't give you. So you got to find that right balance, right? But in terms of the reinforcement learning, you seem to do better in terms of learning, and which is interesting.
Yeah, because it's kind of like looking for this additional context if there was no enough. Because with the prediction, as it was happening initially, what we've learned, right? Not having enough context, this could be just random guess out of the number of words that the person initially gave to this request or the question they initiated. But with the reinforcement learning, it's going to keep rethinking the question until it would make sense exactly. And this is what kind of resonates for me with the conventional machine learning and doing lots of validation and testing on the level of accuracy that the model provides. Because based on my professional background, since I started in conventional machine learning, I really like the concept of understanding what's happening. There is a lot of positive impact from utilizing some of the deep learning models, when the model is looking for some interdependencies in the data that the human cannot explain, but still there is a lot of the reinforcement learning happening in there. And this is what helps us to rely on the outcome more. And unfortunately, with the LLMs, there was a lot of hallucinations, and that's what didn't push the implementation of this solution in the business, in the traditional industry specifically.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that's one of the concerns about LLMs is that hallucinations, or it makes up an answers. But I have to confess, when I was in college and university, I probably hallucinated on a few tests too and made up some answers. But and that's from not knowing the answer, not from anything else. The other thing too reminds me. So my undergrad actually, long how it up in the end, getting a undergraduate in psychology, but I was fascinated about the mind and the AI. I mean, AI is allowing the concept of having computers think and reason like humans, right? And so one of the books I read a couple years ago was called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. And they talked about 3 different things called deep practice, ignition, and I forgot the other concept. It's like mastery and coaching. So deep practice is when somebody's like learning a piano, right? They can go and go all through the whole thing, but if they go through the notes and they make a mistake, if they start all over and keep going, make a mistake, start all over again, it actually is better in terms of the reinforcement learning and the ability to learn and get to mastery, right? And then there's a concept called myelin where you build these pathways and you make the pathways much stronger. It's kind of like a trail I'm sure there was a trail that started in the United States, and then, people walked that trail. Then at some point, the more people walked, it became, highways and now superhighways, right? Same thing with the brain. I think that's also happening in the AI world in terms of these reinforcement learning patterns. Is as they get the rewards, you start getting, they do things faster because of the rewards, and you're making those pathways stronger, which is interesting. And then also one of the things that Deepseek has done is I think it's also giving feedback to the models that distilled information from. So in distillation, right, there's a master or a coach or whatever, and there's a student model. But now the model is giving feedback in. And so in the concept of that book, it's talking about when you coach others and teach others, you actually learn more, which is interesting. And the last thing is about ignition, about passion. So I'm curious to see where an AI ignition or passion comes in. But I think those are very interesting concepts from the human mind and learning,
Yeah, definitely. Cannot agree more with you. And it's very interesting to see how from psychology perspective, we are trying to comprehend all these new ideas. But the origin of all these ideas is actually coming from the human brain nature, right? Like the LLM is basically a neural network, which was built based on the human brain. So it's just kind of like a replica that we are some kind of trying to apply towards other applications. So definitely interesting to see. And it was actually funny in a way to see how the experts in the modeling were reacting to this. We had a session with our tech team to see how the Deepseek was performing and learning, because this is definitely what I'm doing a lot. Like all these O1 or R1 or S1 models, O3 mini, to actually run the question to generate the code that the model is suggesting, but then they apply the changes, because very often we are getting so much impressed by the quality and the convincement of that the model is generating, but not often maybe we go into the implementation of those. So it's interesting to see the real world impact. And what was exciting to see the reaction of our technical lead from the perspective of how the technology has advanced, what are the potential, where this is going to be taking all us. So definitely exciting time, yeah.
And I also went back to what you said at the beginning about inference and inference computing. I think the previous models, they spent a lot of the time and the cost and compute on training the model, where Deepseek changes, like it spent most of the effort on the inference, actually the actual testing. So it's kind of like if a student was preparing for the SAT or some sort of board test, right? If they spend all the time on the training versus actually taking practice tests. So you got to find that right balance. So I think sometimes you got to have that focus on the practice test, but maybe more from a technical perspective, give your perspective on that, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I think if we are talking on the energy and cost that's required for the training of the model, we are very much assessing it from a perspective of the technology providers, right? What effort does it take for them to train the model? And it's only a few companies in the market that would afford to really go create their model and train it on all the data they have available on board. But if we're talking about inference, this is something that is what really of interest of businesses. The cost of the inference, this is what actually is going to define whether the traditional companies are going to be implementing this AI solution. So it's easy to look at the example of the electric vehicle, right? How much effort did it take for electrical vehicle provider to train this car to have autonomous driving? But how much energy and cost does it take for car to take a real-time decision when it's actually on the road and doing the decision based on the data they are consuming at the time? And there is not going to be a lot of conversation going around there, but that's basically one of the major roadblocks for the implementation of AI. And Deepseek exactly raised lots of conversation around that. I'm not sure I can speak to all the technical aspects in terms of that, but from the business perspective, this is very, very important to see how optimizing the inference through lightweight models and different edge computing, and definitely AI chips development. Even what everything has been happening around NVIDIA chips, we still need to consider that there will be a need for AI chips for the inference running. And I'm sure that it will be a key to scaling AI adaptability.
Yeah, I think you said something important, especially autonomous vehicles, right? You can spend a lot of time in training, but it's at the timing of real world applications, right? It's kind of like when I had to, my kids now that, when I was teaching them driving, it's, you can't replace actually being on the road and showing them real life situations, right? So that's something else. And then now let's talk about mixture of experts, right? So a lot of the models, they use the whole model to answer the question, but because of some of the challenges Deepseek could face, I think what they've done is now there's a certain section, what they've just broken down the model into different components. So depending on the domain, you don't need to use all the full parameters and tokens. You use a subset of the tokens and use the expert to answer the question. Kind of like in an organization, you don't have to have the CMO, the CFO, the COO, and the CEO answer all the questions. If it's a marketing question, an HR question, send it to the HR, person, right? Same thing. I think that's kind of the analogy in this model. Maybe you could talk to MOE and mixture of experts.
Yeah, definitely. This is exactly like it's very easy to consider that if you think of zipping, like a zip folder. So that's what allowed them to reduce the cost exactly, because initially they would zip all these specific agents or source of truth for different verticals or different domains in there. And then only in the case when it's needed, the model would go and unzip that specific source of knowledge in there. And this is what exactly allowed the reduction of the cost for the inference, right? When you ask a real-world question with the real-world data, you unzip only the specific folder with the knowledge, and that's what allows for the cost effectiveness.
Also, we spend a lot of time on technology, but I think this has been very important, especially in terms of timing of the market news. And I think these are things that we're all learning and transforming. So, thanks to that. So now let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about business scaling, right? So how can we implement AI effectively without unnecessary complexity, right? How do we simplify things to grow a company with using AI? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, there is a lot of development in that direction, I believe, and again, it depends where you start and where you want to go with, because same as with utilizing human knowledge for scaling from a startup to next stage of your development would require one set of knowledge, right? And if you want to go into 10 billion size company, that would maybe require a different set of skills and resources to be on board. Same exactly with AI. You definitely need to start with understanding where you are and where you want to get in the short term and in the long term, both. As we always advise, and this is actually incorporated in one of our 4 major focuses as the AccelIQ.Digital performs. We always suggest to start with a single high-value use case. Like, for example, we worked with a construction company where instead of like starting going with changes in their major construction operations, which was a very significant change for the company, they actually started with a application for the finance compliance assessment, and this is actually speed things up a lot, help to get quick wins and move from there. Definitely, we would usually suggest to leverage existing tools and infrastructure. Sometimes it would also depend on the case, but some of the AI solutions can be easily integrated into the stack that you have on board. And as an example, I can mention our in-house product, Excel Insight, which is basically been designed keeping in mind the companies which utilize Excel still happens a lot. So instead of re-engineering some of the things, maybe it's easier sometimes to integrate a simple solution that can help you out right there, right now. Avoid over-engineering. I've mentioned that, and would definitely say that the best AI solutions solve real problems with minimal disruption and continuous learning and improvement. So it's not a implemented, deployed, and done process. It would need lots of reevaluation and maybe changes done along the way as the company is going through this organizational change, not only AI adoption, but organizational change adoption at the same time.
Yeah, I think when businesses are scaling, right, there's a lot of companies like AI is the buzzword. We have to do AI, right? And
Yeah.
it's not across, you can't do it across your organization. It's too big. It's like eating an elephant. They say, you got to do one piece at a time. I think there's a multi-pronged approach. You can identify the low-hanging fruit. So some of the stuff that's easily automated, maybe, lead generation, business optimization, some of those types of things. But I agree, especially with what you said, is find the high impact cases, right? What is that specific use case that's going to deliver the most value? And figuring that out, and that's going to really impact the business. I think that's critical. So that's great there. The other thing too is before you came on the show, I get connected to Ariana Smetana. She's the founder and CEO of the company, right? And she was originally going to be on the show, but luckily she had a conflict, and luckily she brought you, and you've been giving us great context. And she had mentioned that in terms of the funding, right, y'all kind of bootstrapped the company, and so you have a unique perspective on that. So I'd love to hear about that, and how y'all have navigated that process. A lot of people are chasing VCs, and it looks like you've kind of self-funded going forward. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for mentioning Ariana. Yeah, she's the founder of the company and the CEO, and she actually is coming from a business background, and she has a very interesting journey into AI space. She had a company in the interior design, and then not really having lots of advanced digital solutions in the industry. This is what sparked her industry in digital transformation and AI. So this is how the company's journey started. And you were definitely right mentioning that we are bootstrapping our in-house product, meaning that the custom AI development projects that we work on, the revenue generated on that projects we used to start our in-house product. There are definitely pros and cons in there. I would not say that it's an easy and straightforward journey. Requires lots of energy and focus. There are definitely lots of opportunities comparing to having funding right away when you start a product. You have this freedom of choice. You can go by your customers. You can prove, because now we are considering maybe we will be going for funding at some point when we decide to scale. But we would have our live customers, the revenue generated, that would give completely different ground when you start having conversations with the investors, right? So if given some ideas in terms of what effort does it take to bootstrap the product, as I mentioned, there's definitely lots of focus to differentiate the service and product functions. So I'd say the lean AI development, focusing on the MVP for our product, has helped a lot. Lots of interaction with the customers, looking for what they need. Revenue first approach is that the custom development always come first in terms of time distribution. And some strategic partnerships. We have partnered with some infrastructure and security providers, which has helped a lot us tremendously, and we are very grateful for those. So that's definitely an interesting journey to bootstrap, but I think it's exciting and definitely gives a completely different feeling of freedom to those who start their journey in product development.
I know, kudos to Excel, to you guys on doing that, because it is a difficult decision. It's a hard journey, but sometimes those hard journeys forces you to really listen to the customer, identify the points the problems you're trying to solve, and build it out, right? I think one of the worst things that can happen is to get a $10 million check and be flush with cash in a sense, right? And, some people say either, they go burn the cash or they go buy a Ferrari. In some cases, better that somebody bought a Ferrari instead of burning the cash, might not be able to deploy, and because they never figured out the problem they're solving, the client use case. I like what you said about being lean and agile, revenue first. And people forget that sometimes. And it's kind of like, a spoiled kid with a lot of money, and you want to avoid that situation. And it's not an easy path, but as you said, it gives you that freedom. It gives you that flexibility. You can do things on your own terms. And then when you do need to go raise capital, you can do it in a much stronger position, right?
Yeah, and on your terms. I think this is what is important. And we're women own business, and when we started our journey, it was for us important to have this freedom in terms of what kind of a solution and we deliver and how we deliver. So we're definitely developing this product with customer in mind. And if we decide so at some point when we are ready, funding is always there, an opportunity, a great opportunity to scale when you are ready.
That's great. I like that you mentioned about women founders, etc. So when we came to this country, because my mom was a strong woman, and so that takes us to the next section, democratization, right? So what do you see as the key challenges, opportunities in making AI accessible to people from a variety of industries and experiences, backgrounds, right? And maybe also talk from a women founder and a women leader perspective too on that.
Yeah, there are a lot of things I can talk in there. Would like to stop for a while on the women business own aspect. I think we were looking a bit into applying for grant, and it's very interesting. There is a big variety of grants available to women own business, and unfortunately, there is no much of those grants specifically assigned towards technology, digital technology, or definitely not AI space. So there is no much at this point, or we haven't focused maybe a lot in there. But there is no much of a grant support if you're a women-owned business, you want to go into data, AI, software development, and you're looking for a grant. There is no much of a support there as of now, unfortunately, but I hope this will be changing, hopefully. If coming back to what are some challenges with the AI democratization, I think a lot is around the hype that's been happening around AI. So it's too complex. Lots of business owners think that it's too complex. And I think that's where we are trying to help out in terms of building the tech community. We are based in Houston, Texas, and we are quite involved with the local tech and AI space community, helping out to raise this conversation around AI and what is AI and what are the basics of AI, to kind of break this perception of AI being too complex. The lack of data readiness. Unfortunately, some companies are not ready to face with the idea that their data is not exactly at the stage to be utilized for AI. And I think it takes courage for some businesses to actually accept that and start their journey with the hard work. Cost of the implementation, but I see that 2025 is going to be bringing lots of change toward that. And yeah, unfortunately, there are lots of hype happening, but definitely important to follow some of the information providers that do dive a little bit more into tech component of AI, rather than, I guess, just following some of the high-level news, which would help all the businesses to stay kind of on track, understand what's happening on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I didn't realize that about the grant situation. And so hopefully folks that are listening can help figure out that situation. One of the things that's, like you said, it's been the complexity. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast, was to, break down these concepts. And one of the feedback that I'm getting generally is that we're able to break down complex AI concepts that are understandable, relatable, practical, and actionable, right? And the other thing that you mentioned is also about community. I love that you mentioned about that. So building that community, working in that local, one of my questions, how do we bridge that gap? And I think that's a key thing, is you've talked about bootstrapping and just, you got to be tough and bootstrap and go forward, be innovative, but also working with your local community, working with your customers and clients. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, definitely. There is a lot of opportunities in there, and it's definitely important to be in touch with your colleagues in the tech space, but also being very close to the businesses itself. So we do have quite a strategy in line in terms of how do we access that. We are trying to be very proactive with the technical community here in Houston. So we do go to different events. And this week, actually, there was a very interesting event happening, AI Summit. And I see lots of change and improvement in terms of raising AI and technology questions here in Houston. It's a very traditional industry city. So there is it's very well known to be focused on energy and healthcare space. But it's really great that these events bring on industry experts. Like, for example, there was an amazing panel which invited some healthcare institutions experts to the panel for them to speak out about the problems they have and how the technology providers can communicate with them. How do they start, and what kind of the solution these healthcare institutions are looking for. So this is how we engage with the community here, and also the business-related events, being out there talking to the businesses, to the people in businesses. So not only C-level who would take the decision about working with us or no, but definitely communicating directly to the analysts, to the managers, seeing what are their pain points, doing lots of lunch and learn engagements with the companies to extend the idea of how they can utilize AI and what it can actually do for them, and having conversations like to help them out, figure out that sometimes they would need to bring someone from their IT department, because it's interesting to see that a lot of companies would not necessarily include the technology or IT teams into the conversation about digital transformation or AI adoption. So we are out there trying to speak up as much as we can, attending different events. We'll be going to Austin soon to the Data Salon event, attending one of the panels there. Just being out there, trying to listen everyone. I think that's what's really helpful.
That's awesome. I'm based in Dallas, Texas, but I've lived in Houston for 1 year many moons ago, and maybe we'll meet up at some of these conferences, that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So ethical AI. So how, we always bring this in every show. How do we balance AI innovation and fast time to market with ethical and responsible AI governance and development?
There is no time enough to speak about this topic, I guess. Originally coming from Europe, I remember when the GDPR just came in place, and it was very exciting, let's say, journey for the company that's dealing with the real-time people data to implement the GDPR compliance in place. So there is a huge amount of work to be done in there for the company that's supplying AI. How does it affect their customers, or for the technology providers that are doing the services that would utilize the company's data, right? Even though all these regulations are still in the process, and I'm sure that they are being written while we speak here in the US, I would definitely suggest the companies to be building up their solution with the idea that those policies can be in place sometime. So be ready rather than circling back when it comes out. It's not an easy change to do if you're not ready. Definitely, I would mention here a lot on the trust and explainability of any AI that's happening. So it's very important that any solution that you are building up is reliable and can be trusted. So I believe this is why, as I mentioned, the Deepseek has kind of got lots of interest because of this explainability that they provided. We've seen companies, interestingly, coming back to the discussion of the on-premise deployment, which has become more and more available with the LLMs running offline. And interestingly, we'll be doing a workshop on this. There was a lot of interest from the companies how they can utilize LLM without exposing their data to LLM providers running the LLM offline. If anyone is interested to join, that would be, we're expecting that to be lots of interest to this topic.
Yeah, regarding Deepseek, right? There's concerns about it because data privacy, security, censorship, like on Deepseek, if you ask about Tiananmen Square or, abuse rights, human rights abuse, the model said it wasn't able to answer that question. It wasn't in its scope. But already various governments have put various restrictions on Deepseek in terms of, I think, Italy, Taiwan, Australia, South Korea, India. The U.S. is introducing a bill. I know Perplexity has introduced Deepseek R1 into their model, but they said the servers are based in North America and the U.S., etc. So, but regardless if it's Deepseek or anybody else, right? I think there's always concerns in AI about your data sources, privacy, security. You can't, just because it's even based in the United States, even if it's a U.S. company, you have to understand the data. You have to have a data governance model, a framework in place to make sure like I've said this on previous episodes, your personal data, the company data, there's general data, personal data, company data, and then even your client data, right? And then who has access and what level of information, and there could be violations around that, especially around medical and HIPAA, right? So those are things to really look out for.
Definitely. And this is exactly why it depends what industry you're working with, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that the regulation for your industry is not going to come out like in a month. So really create your infrastructure and all the policies around the product with the mind around data governance and data privacy. So we had a recently conversation with the healthcare institutions here in Houston. There are two very prominent Houston Methodist and MD cancer institutes, and they were sharing their practices on they are very progressive in terms of applying technologies and they were sharing on their practices on how they approach the client data and the general data, exactly what you mentioned. And this is exactly what they said. They're very careful, and even though there is no specifically some policies around AI, they do take any steps and any decisions having in mind that those regulations can come out tomorrow. And the most important that they want to be careful about is the client's data and the patient's data, that it's protected and the patients data can be safe. So that's definitely super important.
Yeah, no, and I think we're coming up on time. So any encouragement, any concluding thoughts, insights for those that are just getting to the space or struggling to build their business? What are your thoughts?
AI is an exciting space. I would think really coming from the traditional software development space and conventional machine learning, I would definitely recommend going with solid base. Do start small, iterate, be flexible. As we recently had a discussion, don't take a practice that worked for your company the last half a year as this is something that's going to work for you the coming next month. Be ready to change, adapt, embrace, learn, and definitely be on board because it's an exciting space and exciting time to be in this technology.
Yeah, Anastasia, I truly enjoyed this conversation. I think we can talk all day about AI, ML, product development, bootstrapping businesses, but also the technology stack. We talked about Deepseek and different types of AI models, So we're coming up on time. But for our listeners, where's the best place where they can learn more about AccelIQ.Digital or connect with you?
Yeah, for anyone interested, happy to chat. Please reach out on LinkedIn. Same for our company. We do lots of posting in our company profile. We'll be sharing more about the coming workshops. So if you're interested, please go ahead and join us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, in summary of the show, folks, we had an amazing show. We've talked about what is product development, right? We've talked about the technology stack, how Deepseek has kind of disrupted them all. We talked about inference computing, mixture of experts, reinforcement learning, different types of models there. How do you scale a business in terms of finding the areas that are going to be the best use case and that's high impact? Even maybe some of the low-hanging fruit. We talked about integrating ethical and responsible AI into the business in terms of data privacy and security. It's been amazing. And so, everyone make sure to check out and connect with Anastasiia Prydius. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and find us on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify. I've learned a lot from this episode, and I can't thank you enough, Anastasia, for sharing your insights with us today. I'm your host, Sanjay Kalluvilayil, founder and CEO of Stonehaas Advisors. I hope you gained a wealth of game-changing insights to grow, transform, and scale to new levels and dimensions leveraging AI. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.